So I recently saw the big F1 movie starring Brad Pitt, directed by Joseph Kosinski and produced by this indie art house film company called Apple Studios in collaboration with this up-and-coming film producer Jerry Bruckheimer. Now, before really getting into it, I just want to say I've never watched an F1 race in my life. I'm a big fan of Krasinski's previous work such as Top Gun Maverick, which is basically F1 when you boil it down to its basic plot beats, Tron Legacy, and hey, I didn't mind Oblivion either. I think the guy's got a real eye for big blockbuster filmmaking, and in a day and age of the death of cinema, the guy knows how to get bums in seats, and you kind of have to just say hats off to you for that kind of thing. And as a film fan, I like some of the Brad Pitt movies. I, like all teenagers, grew up watching and not truly understanding the irony of Fight Club. He's great in Seven, he's perfectly cast in Tarantino's movies, 12 Monkeys, Burn After Reading, Assassination of Jesse James, Ocean's 11, they're all bangers. Javier Bardem, Kerry Condon, Hans Zimmer, the whole gang's there. But I'm saying all this because not being an F1 fan has given me a really weird perspective on this film that I haven't really heard many people unpack, except maybe Marina Hyde on The Rest is Entertainment.
I have to say, Richard, I mean, we've both seen it. To me, it is totally phenomenal what Formula One has done for itself in recent years. And then to have this movie, and which they, is quite obviously a massive sales pitch for Formula One, and we can talk about how they actually end up doing it within the movie itself, which I find hilarious.
In that, I think, with all due respect and appreciation, the F1 movie is an advert. But before getting into that, what about the film itself? Overall, it's fine. It does the job. It's entertaining. It's maybe overly long, but it's made with such appreciation of the sport, from what I've heard, although some of it is being criticised as being unrealistic, but it's a movie, so whatever. And great lengths were taken to make the racing scenes feel as exhilarating as possible. Plot-wise, however, it's Top Gun Maverick. Or, as Mark Kermode has rightly put it,
top days of Grand Prix with a smidgen of post-center and post-rush rivalry and a whole lot, and I mean a whole lot, of Brad Pitt superstar sparkle. I mean, basically, they could have called it Brad Pitt in a fast car or Brad Pitt in cars. So,
Brad Pitt does a good turn as the likeable, not Tom Cruise charming Maverick. There's been lots of chat from critics that he's entering his Paul Newman era, and there's definitely something to be said about how he's gone from being quite stoic and standoffish on and off screen to really chatty, approachable, and insightful since this film has come out. But I think that's kind of a broader discussion entirely about Brad Pitt and his life and background. Javier Bardem oozes with a lot of on-screen charisma following his role in the Dune films. Kerry Condon is as solid as ever, and Damson Idris is likeable enough as the youthful second to Brad Pitt. Hans Zimmer, I love the guy, but there's something about this score that feels quite cut and paste, but again, it does the job, if just a little too safely. Overall, it's a 3 out of 5 film. You'd watch it with your parents, you'd have a great time, and you move on. But what about what's going on in between all this? What about the implications of the images we're seeing on screen, beyond all of its constituent parts? What's the purpose of this movie beyond whether it's entertaining or not? Basically, what are we doing here? Well, I hate to break it to you, but like most Hollywood blockbusters, this film's ultimate goal is to make money. Now, that might sound cynical and trite because, the purpose of all mass market things is to make money in the 21st century. We're not saying anything new here, and it's maybe naive of me to expect anything different as a film lover. But at the very least, when you look at F1's spiritual predecessor, Top Gun Maverick, and other contemporary blockbusters like the Mission Impossible series, there's at least some concerted effort, spearheaded by individuals like Tom Cruise, or even Christopher Nolan for all I care, to entertain the audience, keep the film industry afloat, because it always seems to be in dire straits.
That's what I sleep with every night. The future of this industry.
And push the boundaries of what's possible with big budget filmmaking. At the end of the day, they're trying to do something new. They're trying to challenge us whilst entertaining us. Tom Cruise's whole modus operandi is to take you to different places. And true, I think F1 does all of these things too. The film is entertaining, the set pieces are well made, and cinematographer Claudio Miranda did a lot to innovate with IMAX cameras to get the most out of the race scenes. Throw in an A-list celebrity, attach it to a massive industry that already has a huge, dedicated fandom, And hey, you've probably got yourself a hit at the movies. But there's something about this particular effort that feels quite transparent, I want to say. In Guy Debord's The Society of the Spectacle, he argues that the spectacle is capital accumulated to the point where it becomes image. And I feel the same can be said for Apple's efforts with F1 the movie, or the F1 movie, or Formula One the movie. It's not a movie we're watching here, it's an accumulation of capital, where every dollar has been spent on sleek imagery for one specific purpose, to make it impossible to distinguish goods from commodities. To sidebar for a second, and to quote Marina Hyde again, she once described Disney's streaming and movie efforts as a wider marketing tool used to get people into their parks.
I'm going to talk to you now about churros, okay?
Churros, the
churros,
snack.
the snack, right?
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, because they sell millions and millions and millions of churros a year, right? Now, churros cost the mouse very little. The cost price of churros at that scale is nothing, right? Shows and movies are really expensive, but they make about 35 million profit from churros a year, but on a 90% profit margin, okay? Now, they finally last year in 2024 made a profit from streaming. Do you know how much they made? 47 million, right? They spent more than 23 billion. That's a 0.2% profit margin, okay? So churros means a lot more to the mouse than Beauty and the Beast or any of that stuff, okay? Having said that, as you could see from Dan Stevens standing dutifully outside the ride, you need Beauty and the Beast to get people to buy the churros.
Their parks are hands down the one thing that makes Disney the most guaranteed money year in, year out. You know, make a movie about a Disney character, open up a new ride around that film, and convert those audience members into high-spending customers at a Disney park. You know, the purpose of all marketing and advertising is to convert someone from a passive audience member into a paying customer. They want you to take an action from seeing this product, basically. So, you know, after seeing the new Disney film, you'll buy the tickets for the whole family, you'll buy the food, you'll buy the merchandise, you'll ride the rides, you'll post about the park online, you know, you advertise the park for Disney for free, and you keep the wheels turning for the big Disney machine. And if you're fortunate enough, you can go there again in a few years' time, and you can do it all over again. If not, you've definitely influenced others around you to make that same decision. If numbers go down, Disney can reboot an old classic, they can buy another franchise, they can do another spin-off, they can do another prequel. In the 21st century, media is not something that is consumed, it is something that one is immersed in. You know, you don't just watch a Disney film to watch the film. You subscribe to the streaming platform, you buy the merchandise, and you live out the fantasy of attacking the Death Star if you go to one of the many parks established around the world. You buy the games, you listen to the soundtrack, you do all sorts. The barrier to entry is just the low, low price of a few hundred, if not thousands of pounds or dollars on park and plane tickets. This may not happen with every Disney consumer, but the hopes are that it happens to most of them. And if we colour Apple with that same brush, and Netflix, and Amazon Prime, and HBO, then these big tentpole movie or TV events are the exact same thing. Amazon Prime spent over $1 billion on attaining the rights to Lord of the Rings and making Rings of Power, and more recently they've done the same with the James Bond estate. They also spent hundreds of millions of dollars on Beast games. Disney spends millions on Star Wars installments, Netflix spends millions on Stranger Things, HBO spends millions on Game of Thrones, Last of Us, and Dune, and so on and so forth. Making movies is a huge financial gamble, especially in 2025, but investing in a preordained franchise is a heck of a lot safer because there's zero work needed to foster an audience from scratch. In buying the rights to Lord of the Rings, you're effectively buying a massive percentage of that audience along with the property. And so if you're a massive media, tech, or streaming conglomerate where the success of your film doesn't hinge on whether people will buy a cinema ticket, then making these films or shows is a marketing investment. Why is that? It's to get your eyeballs on their platform, it's to get your monthly subscription money, and it's to keep you off other platforms. You know, if you grew up watching Lord of the Rings, then of course you're going to give Rings of Power a go. If you're 12 years old and watching Mr. Beast on YouTube, or if you're in your mid to late 20s like me, and you sometimes watch Mr. Beast, then chances are you're going to convert into an Amazon Prime subscriber and watch his TV show, and rinse and repeat. So, well, what's this got to do with the F1 movie then? What are we doing here? Well, is this not the exact same thing? Since programs like Drive to Survive, F1 has seen a massive boom in popularity. And again, this is coming from someone who doesn't actually watch Formula One or understand that industry. I can see from the outside in that F1 has become very popular in the last 5 or so years. And we've seen that format replicated with other sports like basketball, football, and golf, and who knows what else. And to be honest, I'm not knocking this. I think they're all great. And they're great gateways into some sports that were at one point quite difficult to get into. I owe my interest in basketball to things like The Last Dance and, was it called Last Chance U, for example.
Now I hit the rim, it's boom, click and go back this way, boom, here, click and go that way, boom, that way, click here and go back this way. So basically, I just started learning how to put myself in a position to get the ball.
There's no surprise then that F1 the movie echoes its own predecessor, Top Gun Maverick, with the sameness and homogeny that Horkheimer and Adorno unpack in Dialect of Enlightenment. As they put it, all mass culture under monopoly is identical. F1 the movie may have a different name and a different leading actor to Top Gun Maverick, and it may be about a different industry or topic, but the structural beats and narrative elements are exactly the same. If it works for Top Gun, then it can work for F1. If Drive to Survive was a hit for Netflix, then let's do something similar for Apple TV. You may think that what you're getting is something new, but it's already been predetermined by economic imperatives. And so there's just something specific about this pairing between Apple and F1 that did not make me feel like an audience member. It made me feel like a customer.
Shut up and take my money!
Which again, is how the economics of the film industry works. It's how living in the 21st century works. But I think this is where the facade of it being entertainment first has slipped. You know how they say, if the product is free, then you're the product? Facebook and Instagram and TikTok are free, but in using those platforms, you're forfeiting your data to the platform to sell to advertising companies. There's something about this film that feels like an elevated or premium version of this. Yes, I paid for a cinema ticket, but in actuality, because I own some Apple products, I actually get Apple TV for free at home. They just give you 12 months for free whenever you buy something. So if I just waited about a month, then I could have seen this film for free, in big quotation marks. If I wasn't an Apple customer but an F1 fan, then odds are I would have either paid for a cinema ticket or I would have become an Apple TV subscriber to see the film. In the same way I would have subscribed to Amazon Prime if I was a Lord of the Rings fan, if you see what I'm going for. But in watching F1 for free on Apple TV, then I am the product. And what am I the product for? Advertising. And what am I being advertised for with this film? So many products. Apple products, Shark Ninja, Expensify, MSC Cruises, IWC watches, Qatar Airways, petrol companies, clothing brands, airlines, banks, tech companies, apps, beverages, hotels, cars, all sorts. Maybe even just going and watching a race at Silverstone has been advertised to me. But at the center of all that, there is Formula One, the sport. So hey, if you like what you see here, then why don't you start watching F1? But to do that, you need a Sky Sports subscription, or better yet, subscribe directly to F1 or buy a ticket and go and see the F1 in real life. Now, I get it, advertising and product placement is in some ways a fundamental part of both sports and movies. It's everywhere. When you go to the cinema, you have to sit through half an hour of adverts unless you turn up later.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday.
And sometimes these products even find discreet ways of making themselves into the film itself. When you support a football team, you're also buying a jersey which has a specific sponsor on it. When you watch a football player celebrate, you're also getting advertised to at the same time. And with F1 in particular, advertising and product placement is almost a fundamental part of how you engage with the sport. The car is just absolutely covered in adverts, the merchandise is as well. But at the heart of both of these things, sports and movies, there's teamwork, individual skills, success, failure, triumph, but also things like self-expression, artistry, and meaning, with a capital M. Films can mean something. A team winning a championship can mean something. But what's the meaning of the F1 movie? Not every film needs one, but what's its purpose then? Whatever it is, it's the same as Top Gun Maverick, so what are we doing here, really? Did Joseph Krasinski and Jerry Bruckheimer wake up one day and realize they had an idea for this story that needed to be told? Or did two massive media conglomerates see a lucrative opportunity and take it? And have I, as the naive lover of film, willingly gone and paid my hard-earned cash to ultimately be advertised to? Horkheimer and Adorno once said that the triumph of advertising in the culture industry is that consumers feel compelled to buy and use its products, even though they see through them. And I think that's kind of what's happened to me with this film, honestly. Look, altogether, F1 was an entertaining and well-made movie. I don't know if I wholly agree with the current state of affairs when it comes to tentpole blockbuster movie making. The argument about the Marvelification of movies has been done to death, and I feel like similar ideas raised in this video were had and fleshed out around the success of films like Barbie, particularly by Brody Deschanel, who I recommend to all of you. But I think every once in a while it's necessary to either recognize or push back a little bit on what we're being fed here, or what we're sort of allowing media conglomerates to get away with, because little by little, culture becomes homogenized and everything becomes one big advert. Anyway, this has just been what the inside of my brain has looked like these last couple of days. I don't claim to be an expert on any of this stuff, but it's just what it made me feel. If you saw the movie, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if any of this resonated with you, then do let me know, even if you disagree with me. And if you like what you saw and heard, then please subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.